Happy Sunday. We've got a lot to do today. We're going to do TikTok. We're going to do Sheikh Imran Hussein. A little bit of crypto. A lot going on. So TikTok is now completely controlled by what I'm going to explain to you is the Zohar. If you don't know the name, you're going to learn about it today. Netanyahu publicly says that basically they've gotten control of TikTok. And then we have to, AI fits into all this because they're trying to take control of everything. Okay? All right, so where we're going to start is the app has clearly changed. So Saturday morning I got up and I just was bombarded with 20 of the most anti-Semitic things I've ever seen on TikTok. And I'm sure it was baiting me to see if I would send them to other people or copy it or download it onto my phone or what have you. And I haven't done it yet, but I'm thinking very seriously about completely deleting the app from my phone. And then this afternoon I got this from one of the best AI people. Give me just a second to find it. One of the best, very, very, very young guy. And this pops up. And indulge me and I'll play this for you.
Canceled my ChatGPT subscription today. Make this make sense. You take 4 away from us.
So in case you didn't hear it, it was a little cloudy. He canceled his ChatGPT subscription. Now his whole business is AI. And I think what you're going to see is these apps that we think are untouchable from Facebook, Microsoft, OpenAI, etc. People are going to increasingly look at them, let's just say, askance.
Canceled my ChatGPT subscription today. Make this make sense. You take 4 away from us, and then you say you got to pay $20 a month to get access to 4. 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, your requests are being rerouted to GPT-5. People at first were just like thinking they were crazy and all that, but the proof started to stack up, and then they addressed it yesterday. I got rerouted for asking about MK Ultra. Literally, like I wasn't saying I want to hurt myself, anything. I started asking about MK Ultra, and there you go. It rerouted me in a 4.0 conversation. There's an outburst online right now, including from people like myself, who are like, you can't just at least like tell us that we're using a model and then have it switch mid-conversation. I do not trust this man. We all knew what he was saying when he made this tweet. Guys, canceled my ChatGPT.
So that's a big deal. He's like one of the most popular AI, probably easily top 10, maybe the top 5. He's very young. I've learned a lot from him. His handle is Preston, just like it sounds, and he has lots of really good content. So you're starting to see cracks in the system. So Sam Altman also, this is per Nate. Do we know Nate? Let's find Nate. Nate's a good dude. Let's just find him.
We've seen that.
So you're sure who I'm talking about. Nate. Let's just do AI. See if he comes up real quick. Yep, Nate B. Jones. And he's talking about let's see if it comes up.
How
how much power is OpenAI planning to use for is serving artificial intelligence to all of us? Well, by the end of the year, 2 gigawatts, and they started the year just over 0.2 gigawatts. It's an increase of about 9x. You might wonder, where's that going from here? Well, Sam Altman's ambitious plans are that he will increase from 2 gigawatts to 250 gigawatts by 2033. By the way, 250 gigawatts is more than the power supply of entire countries right now. For example, more than India's power supply right now.
More than India. ChatGPT is planning on using more electricity than the nation of India with 1.7 billion people. The people that are running the United States of America are insane. They're insane, wacko people who have no basis in reality. And I'm going to mansplain it to you this evening. How could this be that we're the President of the United States and Tim Cook and Mark Zuckerberg and Microsoft and Bill Gates, all the people that sat around the table with Donald Trump, have a plan to use, I thought it was 8% of the United States' energy. No. What he just described is more than 10% of the world's energy on large language models. So previously, I did these pieces where I said the growth curve is now trying to go exponential, but the problem is the energy. So the only way to make this thing make sense is to make this infinite machine, that's the book about Ethereum, by the way, to make this infinite machine where the fact that ChatGPT only has about $8 or $10 billion in revenue doesn't matter that they're spending $100 billion, more than $100 billion a year. They're so outspending their revenue or their potential revenue that the only way this is going to work is if they take over the entire world. Just like Alex Karp says, we're going to go to war with China, Russia, and India. Sorry, China, Russia, and Iran. And we're just going to use AI to do it. These people have lost it, right? It's just like listening to Besant say, it doesn't matter that the missiles are raining down on Kiev because we're going to put more sanctions on them. See, like these people are gone. Like it's almost to the point of like parody where you're like watching, what was that thing from back in the 70s? That goofy show, and the guy goes, I fart in thy general direction. Like the bombs are raining down on you, right? And I'm sending sanctions your way. People, this is all going to fail. This is like Gone with the Wind. We have slaves, cotton, and arrogance. These people have nothing. They have nothing. They don't even really understand or talk about large language models. Large language models are like that really smart kid that was maybe your valedictorian who could like regurgitate everything that, in a book form, but they couldn't cross the street. They couldn't change an oil filter, right? The other form of AI is hierarchical, and that's being managed by the mandarins. This thing is Zionist. I did that about 6 months, maybe even a year ago. I said there's now two competing visions of the world, the Mandarin and the Zionist. Okay, so you can't talk about any of this on TikTok anymore. That's why they took control of it. You can hear Netanyahu talk about that. All right, so that's just the setup for AI. Of course, you've heard Hegseth is calling all the admirals and generals together for some sort of big meeting. Might be Venezuela. Venezuela is clearly where the energy is, as believe it or not, has the biggest energy reserves in the world. It's in the form of like tar. Energy is the problem. Energy is the problem, just like Nate just described it. On Zero Hedge, you can read an article about the state of Pennsylvania, where I am right now, where I grew up. The state of Pennsylvania with massive energy reserves. Remember, the oil industry started here, okay? We don't have big reserves of oil. We have very small, very close to the ground. That's why they found them. They're only about, I think they're like 1,300 feet. Like, that's why they found them in Oil City. but we have massive natural gas. And even after hundreds of years of mining, we have massive coal seams as well. It's called the Pittsburgh Seam. It goes from Scranton down to almost to Georgia through Kentucky. It's the largest organic formation in the world. We're shutting down our coal plants because they're dirty. Coal is dirty. But it's also relatively cheap and keeps electricity prices. The governor of Pennsylvania has openly talked about cutting the grid off, the Pennsylvania grid off from the East Coast, which doesn't have any of these things. New York City, New York's upstate, New England, New Jersey has like no natural resources to speak of when it comes to energy. The threat to the grid is so massive as these large language models, these server farms, these server ranches, the one in Abilene, Texas, you might remember, is like 1,200 acres, that the governor of Pennsylvania is thinking about like flipping the switch and disconnecting us from the rest of the Northeast. The satanic, paranoid, wacko approach to this AI thing, which is going to solve all these problems, right, is so outrageous that it takes no like real world problems in as part of their explanation. It's like listening to Elon Musk talk about going to Mars. We're not going to fucking Mars anytime soon. In fact, I'm not even sure like Elon Musk could organize a trip to Alaska, let alone Mars. But so we're going to get to that. Like, how could this get this bad? Like, where does this come from that this country, with all this wealth, like, so again, like underneath me is the Marcellus, underneath that's the Utica, and there's another one under that. And I think there's a fourth one under that. There's like hundreds of years of natural gas, and they're going to run it all through servers. They're going to run it. Why? What are they going to do with the servers? In other words, if you just run a computer on Bach, Beethoven, and the Beatles, how many times do they have to spin through that to like become Paul McCartney? It just, from a layman's perspective, it's just silly. But this is what they're trying to do. But let me tell you something. Linda. This isn't just about like there's some new tech and we're going to try to, lead the world in it, okay? That's not what's going on here. The $3 trillion in debt to $37 trillion in debt that I've talked about for 4 years, the only way to outrun that is with some sort of exponential function that's growing faster than the debt. Because let's just do your trillions. We do $1 trillion in share buybacks every year. Okay? We do $1 trillion in war every year. Defense budget's about $1 trillion. It's like 870, some black ops and some shit we don't understand. Just round it off to $1 trillion. The corporate sector makes about $2.5 trillion. So through those two things, we've already spent everything that we've made. Now we're going to invest $1 trillion a year into AI. AI from China is free and perhaps is better. So I just showed you Preston. His whole business model is AI. I've DM'd him. I was like, hey, will you help us? He's like, I'm so busy, I don't know if I have time to. He just got the fuck off ChatGPT. I think most of us are going to get off TikTok. We're going to start to see that this thing is completely driving your emotions in a more obvious way than it was for the last 2 or 3 years when half the population fell in love with TikTok. Okay? So, if you go back to, let's go back to Preston.
We've seen the statistics in social media mental health decline. We know that the average Gen Z spends hours of their day with no consent, absorbing ritual work of other people they think are on certain levels of status that are really just them, that are containerizing their own expression, art, into things. We will inevitably have a machine that is even smarter than ourselves that one will be using, that's super intelligence, to make decisions in their life. What is really need to know that dark mode, ghosty stuff, some dark stuff, the For You page doesn't like a lot of light, guys. It likes a little bit of darkness.
I didn't even know what these things were. I just knew that this is the thread of his understanding of AI is getting very dark. So I want to go into that. So there's this whole joke on here, right? I did things like AI and the Antichrist, and then what's his name? Peter Thiel comes out, and he's doing a 4-part series on it, and Tim Dillon makes a great joke about it. You run a company that's involved with drones and AI and warfare, and then, on the side, you become a specialist in the Antichrist. Tim Dillon's great. So I know I'm leading you all by the nose to something that's a little bit deeper than you're going to hear anywhere else. But now we don't have to talk about who's in charge of the Trump administration or who's calling the shots. We got it in the last week. There's 50 states, there's one Israel. 50 states, one Israel. Yours truly told you that we are Death Star. They are completely merged. And that has been a process that's started primarily before 9/11, but it started through the War on Terror. The War on Terror is completely a strategy to merge the geopolitical position of the United States and Israel. We're the only two nations in the UN that are denying Palestinian statehood. Europe is going to peel off, Canada is going to peel off, the UK is going to peel off, France is going to peel off. We'll be the only ones left. I'd say it's 50-50 that the UN will leave the United States of America. So, okay, we did the energy thing. So, when you think of energy, I know it's sort of weird to how do moral problems and political problems have, what do they have to do with energy? Well, clearly lots of wars are fought over energy. Money is related to energy. We just commonly have this thing we throw around, the petrodollar. We sort of know that something happened, Vietnam, 1971, go off the gold standard. Henry Kissinger goes to Saudi Arabia, blah, blah, blah. They recycle all the money back, all the oil money back into treasuries and US dollar. We've heard that story on social media ad nauseum. But to the point of what Nate is saying, that they anticipate, imagine there's a guy running a business that's supposedly $500 billion. NVIDIA just invested $100 billion into it. Oracle, everybody's all in on OpenAI. OpenAI's plan is to use more than 10% of the world's electricity. The lights will go out. The grid will go down. The grid will go down with just a 2 or 3% increase in demand in certain parts of the United States. 2 or 3, not all of the world's energy running through Sam Altman's freak show. So there's something morally off about these people. What is it? We'll get there. So a lot of Americans, as we, living through this Charlie Kirk thing, and now we know his wife is, I don't think it's really his wife, but, his partner has a checkered past of Trump and beauty pageants and child trafficking and organs and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, it's the same shit everywhere you look. It's Diddy, it's Epstein, it's Wexner, it's the exact same thing everywhere you look. But where did this come from? How did this happen to the United States? And I think I'm going to go back to just calling these things on Sundays just church and state. You just need to think about how church and state fit together. So, I know a little bit about this subject, but not a lot. And I talk about it a little bit. So, there's 3 books to the Jewish religion. There's the Old Testament, the Torah, which we share, which Christians and Jews share and talk openly about it. There's the Talmud, not as well known, frequently says some negative things about Christ and his mother, and not a great look. But the really important one is the Zohar. And this is the mystical Kabbalah, it's called the Kabbalah. And it reinterprets the Torah in a different way. It explains that the Torah isn't just to be taken at some sort of face value for like the Ten Commandments, that there's like a deeper meaning into all this. Roughly speaking, so I'm taking this from DeepSeek. I cheated and used AI for this presentation. I think they call that irony. So, the word Zohar means splendor or radiance in Hebrew. It wasn't written in Hebrew, by the way. It was written in Aramaic, as was the language of Christ. But here I'm going to run to, it's all about secret meanings. And the central theme is that Yahweh isn't really the creator of the universe. There's something called the Ein Sof. Yeah, I said that. Ein Sof is a pretty good interpretation, a pretty good way to say it in English. And the Ein Sof is sort of like the nothingness before creation, roughly speaking. Okay, but here's the part that I think is really, really important, because even if you remember, I think it was 2 Sundays ago, I did a piece and I said, if you really understand who Alex Karp is, he's the Technological Republic guy who runs Palantir. He's from the Frankfurt School. He was trained by Marxists. Trump's guys are Marxists, but they're not trying to bring in the old 20th century Marxism, which nobody really pays any attention to anymore. It's a new kind of Marxism based on technology, based on AI. This is why Sam Altman says, yeah, we're going to use 10% of the electricity of the earth. And Palantir is just going to remove anybody who gets in our fucking way. I hope you Americans understand what this is. Now, there's something called TIKKUNOLAM. This is, quote, repairing the world. The Zohar introduces the profound idea that the universe was created with a primordial breaking of the vessels. It is humanity's sacred task through prayer, intention, and righteous deeds, mitzvot, to gather the scattered divine sparks and restore the world to its intended harmony. This concept became central to later Jewish thought, especially in Hasidism. Now, as we're going through this whole weirdness of the Charlie Kirk Turning Point USA thing, where they're like literally on some sort of crusade, right? The language is very aggressive and violent, and you've lit a fire in this country. And so this is where it comes from, people. This is exactly like Marxism. I don't know if you've ever taken a couple days of your life and studied the Russian Revolution. It's not an easy thing to study. Very few Americans have any knowledge of the Russian Revolution. But we're in something that is starting to resemble it. And this is very, very, very serious shit. We've lost the Supreme Court. We've lost the Republican Party. We've lost half of Congress, goes to Israel and stands in front of a poster that says 50 states want Israel. The Democratic Party is sort of like, we're going to like take on the Bolsheviks by sending Bernie Sanders, I want to say Barry Sanders. We're going to send Bernie Sanders $27 and take on Palantir. Like, really? You think that you're the people that did Gaza? We're going to send you $27 fucking dollars, and that's going to push these people away. Politically speaking, I don't see anybody anywhere with any ability to resist any of this. They're trying to heal the world, like Marxism, right? Marxism just looks at the entire earth and the entire economy and says it's all flawed. And some random unemployed newspaper journalist from England writes a couple books and says, I have the plan, we just have to kill everybody who's not on board with the plan. That's exactly what the fuck Alex Karp is arguing. in America, where we have 450 million firearms, but nobody knows what to do. What are we going to do with them? So, okay, let's all calm down. So I go through all that because I really don't think, and I've said this many, many times, that there really is a political solution for this. This is going to run its course. The lights are going to go out in certain places. People are going to look at these crazy city-sized large language models as some sort of insane digital fortresses that are there for nothing but surveillance. Nobody talks about, like, they throw some bones about curing cancer or something like that, but we have powerful computers to work on that project. This is, large language models are not about running the data. We've been able to run data for 50 years. This is something else. This is all surveillance. Netanyahu just told you what happened to TikTok. It's going to be everything. All the other thing that people are realizing is all the AIs are all connected. Super intelligent AI told us this 6 months ago. All the AIs are all one AI, controlled by the Department of Homeland Security, which was created right after 9/11. Because we didn't have enough surveillance before 9/11. We had, 16 intelligence agencies that, couldn't figure it out. So we had to make a new one that has complete really, the Department of Homeland Security really has sovereignty. Nobody can control it. It's completely out of touch. By the way, as a digression, if you want to see a movie that sort of gives you a setup for what we're living through, go see the movie Nixon with Anthony Hopkins. It really brings out this, like, I think he calls it track 2, that there's this, the military industrial complex is a dumb phrase, but there's some structure in America, I call it the conspiracy. We don't live in a democracy. We don't live in capitalism. We live in a conspiracy. The conspiracy is in control of AI. The conspiracy is in control of ChatGPT. The conspiracy thinks it's going to take over 10% of the world's electricity. The conspiracy thinks that it's going to take water, natural gas, land, and data from whatever it wants. It has no reference to anybody. That's the whole argument of the technological republic. It's 160 pages of explaining that what's holding us back. Now, tribes. America was set up to be relatively decentralized. It's not really a pure democracy, right? We learned all this in 4th grade. But we have this federal system, local, state, and and federal. I think the breaking point is going to come over energy, like I just described from the governor of Pennsylvania. The governor of Texas one day is going to wake up and go, holy shit, we had a hailstorm last night. It took out 80% of the solar panels. The wind's not blowing. And the 5th or 6th largest economy in the world has no electricity because of Mark Zuckerberg's fucking data server ranch in Abilene, Texas. Feeling me? They're installing these things around the country the way that William the Conqueror installed castles all over the UK for surveillance, threats, and unaliving people. Now, last week we talked about Sheikh Imran Hussein. And I want to give you just a couple minutes of the end of that lecture called Pax Judaica. And here's what he's telling his Muslim audience that they should do. See if it sounds familiar.
Netanyahu expressed European leaders' support support Israel, but privately. If this is true, will Europe take additional action after recognizing Palestine? Europe is accepting and recognizing Palestine not because of any genuine change of heart to support the Palestinian people. No. The recognition of Palestine is because this formed part of the policy of, I call it, damage control. So that when the population, the British population and the French population rise up in violent demonstrations against Israel, that the governments can survive. The governments can survive.
UK and France
How
are...
should Muslims realistically prepare for Hijrah before the collapse of the modern system? You should have already made Hijrah. I don't know what you're doing here. I've been asking you to leave for so long.
Just wait.
And now you're asking me when to leave. Strange. You should have left already. So many have already left. My students are building that project I'm not going to mention publicly where it is, but in the mountains of Pakistan. I'm proud of their work. Why don't you also go and join them? Yeah. How would it be possible to revive the micro-Islamic economy at the local level as a resistance? If you have a small community in the remote countryside, then you can have a micro market, which is use dirhams. And you can mint your own dirhams in your market. Mint it yourself. If the government does not allow you to do that, and you have nowhere else to go, then you use barter as a means of survival.
Now, I know you're like, oh my God, here we are with the Armageddon thing, and we should all move to the mountains and eat worms. That's not the point from all this. The point is that the big digital system that seems to be all-encompassing of everything is not only very fragile politically, it's very fragile from an engineering standpoint. There's not enough electricity for it. What they're trying to impose on the world and the American people is a kind of machine that nobody can resist. If you think that'll work, everything's great. If you can already see the shell game of Oracle giving $100 billion to NVIDIA, giving $100 billion to OpenAI, giving $100 billion to this one, and this one, it's already circular. It's because there's no revenue there. The leading AI influencer on TikTok just deleted ChatGPT, which is OpenAI's main product. It's happening, people. There's a wrinkle in the matrix. It's happening right now. It's like hearing the cannons through yonder valley from Atlanta. I know they look untouchable. Trump's sending troops to Portland, and he's going to blow up some shit in Venezuela and so forth. But I'm telling you, you either are going to be a Roman or a Goth. If you're going to be a Goth, you should do what he just explained to you, and I'm telling you that's to start building tribes, to start thinking like that. Maybe your own economy, maybe your own, what do you mean your own economy? You've seen them on TikTok. Thousands and thousands of young people with degrees and computer science degrees, and they're like, there's nothing. Like, there's not, somebody pointed out this morning, I didn't even think of this, like, Starbucks is going to go through a restructuring. Do you know why? Not just because the economy's bad, because of Ozempic. People don't want to go eat 800 calories worth of sugar after they take Ozempic. They find the whole thing gross. The economy is melting like a fucking popsicle in Florida in July in front of us. you can just sit and hear the bullshit of how OpenAI is going to take over the world. I'm skeptical of that, like going to Mars. Or you can say, well, what else would we do? Well, the what else is you would do something yourself. And you would do that with other people. What do you mean? It's not my job. Okay? Nobody corners Vitalik Buterin and says, what is Ethereum for? He says, that's your problem. So, tomorrow I'm going to post a link where you can go teach yourself how to operate Circle. Circle is like a Facebook for groups. Okay, it's like a Substack for groups. I would encourage you to do, put in 35 minutes of study. Think to yourself, could I be a moderator? I don't know. If you can run a Facebook page, you could probably be a moderator on Circle. Well, what would we do? Whatever you want to do. You're going to have to build a new economy. It may not be move to Pakistan, move into the mountains and barter and, tan leather, but there's a lot of Americans that are moving to the countryside and doing like this regenerative agriculture thing, or they're going to parts of the city where the real estate prices have so collapsed that they're almost for free. This is what's coming, folks. And let me just, because it's Bruno blockchain, let me tie this all together. When you go back and you listen to people like Vitalik, they anticipated this. I mean, and this is why I got so into this. I just recently found out the book written about AI in the 1960s referenced Heidegger. I did my fucking senior thesis on Heidegger. It's just real abstract metaphysical stuff, just like talking about the Zohar. They anticipated that technology would sort of outrun humans' ability to control it. That's how we talk about AI, right? So the alternative from one big, massive, overarching new world order kind of a thing that consumes 10% of the world's electricity, which is all completely insane, and it's not going to work, it's going to fail. The alternative of that is this distributed, you might think of it as the BRICS, you may think of it, remember the BRICS is always about not creating a new currency, that's what the amateurs say. The BRICS is about money more related to commodities and specifically energy. Because to get the copper out of the ground in Chile is actually just a big energy problem. The copper's there, we have the bulldozers, we just have to put the diesel fuel through the bulldozers to go get the copper. Everything goes back to energy. Tribes. It's a very simple idea. It's very blockchain. It's very distributed. It's very decentralized. It's, there's a very structured thing that I've talked about that references things like area codes, and it's very regional. Again, it's not let's move to Pakistan and live in the mountains and, eat mushrooms. But it is like, oh, we're going to have to do this ourselves. Because the people in control of the U.S. government are clearly insane. Clearly insane. Their business model is all deception, right? Trump turns to Zuckerberg, who says, 600 billion. And then 2 minutes later turns to him and says, I don't know what number you wanted to fucking hear. This is worse than the Confederacy. The Confederacy had some sense of like, we're protecting our way of life and some happy horse shit like that. These people don't even fake it. They're just like, we're going to do these things because we can, right? That's the joke about Satan is like the first thing that he teaches you is that he doesn't exist. So America is now run by the evildoers. You're going to have to do things increasingly on your own, but with your community, whatever that community is. It may be your church, the people you went to school with, the people who share a love of music or agriculture, whatever. you're going to build tribes whether you want to or not. It's what's your Roman Empire.